Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to your astrological forecast for the upcoming week. I am pre-recording this. I'm actually recording this on the day of Jupiter on Thursday, right before I'm going to be flying into the UK. So let's talk about Jupiter and traveling, of course. But yeah, of course, as I just started saying, this video will be predominantly focused on the full moon in Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, by that point in Cancer, which we will be experiencing next week on June 11th. So as I mentioned, I am traveling today and I have to pre-record this video, so just bear with me. We are going to pick up with the transit starting from the weekend because that's when you're going to be watching this. And there is quite a lot of build up towards this full moon in Sagittarius. This was a very quiet beginning of the week. There was nothing going on Monday, Tuesday, which again is telling you how important this last lunation, which was the new moon in Gemini, was with regards to seeding of these new timelines, this new way of thinking, this new way of perceiving reality. And now with this full moon in Sagittarius, the main build up is happening over the weekend, but especially Monday. So let's just see. And well, let's just see where we're going to go with all of this. So yeah, as usual, I just would like to tune in and call in on my higher self, my spirit guides, angelic team, ascended masters, stars family, also ancestors, Akashic record keepers, my astrological team, and all the beings of light that wish to be present. Thank you for being here. Thank you everybody who is watching. And yeah, as I mentioned, I am recording this on Thursday. And tonight or tomorrow morning, depending where you are in the world, I'll be at the airport one way or another. Venus is moving into the sign of her rulership, into the sign of Taurus. So by the time you are watching this, Venus is already in the sign of Taurus. Then Friday the 6th, which is actually the day of Venus, the 6 is number associated with Venus. We are going to be experiencing Mercury making a sextile to Chiron. This is a first sextile since the conjunction, which took place on 26th of May 2025. Yeah, the first sextile is all about Taurus, all about creating of the new foundation, the new way of thinking in this case. And then on Friday night, or Saturday or morning, depending where you are in the world, Moon will move into the sign of Scorpio, and that's where Moon will remain until Monday. So the entire weekend, Moon will be in the sign of Scorpio, again preparing us for this full moon because a lot of things might come up. With Moon in a Scorpio, we get quite introspective and start digging deep into our shadow, and this is very good because with the full moon in Sagittarius, a lot of things will become illuminated to us, especially with regards to these old outdated ways of thinking, perceiving reality, the old stories that are not working for us anymore. Then on Saturday, Moon will conjunct, it will conjunct my Pluto, but will actually square the Pluto in the sky, Pluto retrograde. And then on Sunday the 8th, we will have the final conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini on 29 degrees and 46 minutes, which is resetting the cycle that began between the two of them on June 4th, 2024, which was right before the new moon in Gemini, which was on the 6/6 portal last year. So at that time, they also conjunct in the sign of Gemini, but in early degrees. And this time they conjuncting in Gemini again on 29 degrees and 46 minutes, which is the 11 and 10. So seeding of the timelines for the next year, which is the year of 10. And then right after that, Mercury will move into the sign of Cancer, where Mercury will remain until 26th of June. And that's when Mercury will move into the sign of Leo, which actually will be right after the new moon in Cancer, I believe, which is on the 25th, if I remember correctly. And then on Monday, Jupiter eventually will follow. But before that, on Monday the 9th, we will have Mercury square Saturn, 1 degree. Mercury from the sign of Cancer, Saturn is on 1 degree of Aries. And their last conjunction was on 25th of February in the sign of Pisces, 20 degrees, 16 minutes. Then after that, Moon will move into sign of Sagittarius. So we are entering into the new week still with Moon in a sign of Scorpio. But then on Monday the 9th, Moon is moving into the sign of Sagittarius. Then also on Monday, Venus is making a square to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Venus is in the sign of Taurus, obviously, by then. And the last conjunction took place on December 7th, 2024, which was in Aquarius on 0 degrees 23 minutes. And actually, this was, as I mentioned at the time, that was the second conjunction they had that year because they already had one conjunction in February in 2024. So they had two conjunctions. So this is the first quarter square since that conjunction, and that is all about crisis in action. So what do we have to do? Obviously, Venus being the ruler of Uranus, who is the ruler of Pluto. Pluto is currently Mercury retrograde, so this is an acceleration of our evolution. Venus was reborn, going from Aries to Pisces back to Aries, so our needs, values, all of that change, and our foundation is changing. So Venus being in a sign of Taurus, this is all about giving to yourself. It's the self-love, cultivating your self-worth, your sense of self-esteem, and your trust in yourself. So you know that you can build this new pathway to make strong roots. So with regards to Pluto going retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, which is making us to upgrade our system to be more of a match to this Aquarian frequency, to this age of Aquarius. Now Venus being squared by Pluto squaring Venus, doesn't matter how you look at it really. Either way, it's the first quarter square for Venus, which is saying, okay, you have to do something now. You have to do something. We all have to do something now. And this is to do with our relationship towards oneself, because Taurus is your relationship towards you. And that's what then affects how other people will treat you, because other people will only treat you the way you allow them. So it all starts from you. Yeah. So Venus in the sign of Taurus, this is what she's going to be helping us to learn. And then, as I already mentioned, on Monday the 9th, Jupiter is moving into the sign of Cancer, and Jupiter will remain in the sign of Cancer until 30th of June or 30th of June or 1st of July 2026, depending where you will be in the world at that time. And then also on the same day, Mercury will square Neptune. So at the beginning of the day, Mercury squaring Saturn. At the end of the day, Mercury squaring Neptune. And this is at 2 degrees, Mercury being in the sign of Cancer, Neptune being in the sign of Aries. And this is also a first quarter square, just like it was between Mercury and Saturn, between Mercury and Neptune. We know that Mercury and Neptune actually had 3 conjunctions when Mercury was before retrograde, during retrograde, and post retrograde. Between Mercury and Saturn, there was only 1. Venus had 3 conjunctions with Saturn. So the conjunctions between Mercury and Neptune, the first and the second, took place in Pisces. That was on 2nd of March and 29th of March, which we might remember was the solar eclipse in Aries, the final one. And after that, Neptune moving to the sign of Aries the following day. And the final conjunction, and actually that conjunction, the one on the day of the eclipse, took place on 29 degrees 59 minutes of Pisces. So yeah, after that, obviously Mercury, well, actually just before, because this was when Mercury was retrograde, Mercury just retrograded back into the sign of Pisces from Aries. And then the final one was on 16th of April on 0 degrees and 38 minutes of Aries. So that was their 3rd conjunction, but the first one in the sign of Aries for this next 12-year cycle. All right, so as I mentioned, as you can see, Monday is a super busy day. Of course, it's the moon day, so it's preparation for the moon, and it's the day on number 9, which is all to do with Mars. We are being initiated into this lunation. And then talking about Mars, on Tuesday the 10th, Mars in Leo will make a trine to Chiron in Aries, ruled by Mars, on 26 degrees and 6 minutes. And their last conjunction took place on 29th of May 2024 on 22 degrees and 10 minutes of Aries. All right. Then Wednesday the 11th, this is the day of the moon. So we will experience the full moon in Sagittarius. I believe for maybe people in Hawaii, it might be taking place still on Tuesday night, but for everybody else, I believe it will be on Wednesday the 11th. So we'll experience the full moon in Sagittarius, 20 degrees, and here it says 39 minutes on my ephemeris. And then after that, Mercury will make an exact sextile to Venus, 5 degrees 40 minutes, and the last conjunction was on March 11th, and during that time Venus was retrograde in the sign of Aries on 8 degrees 48 minutes. And what else we've got going on that day? After that, obviously, moon will move into the sign of Capricorn. For some of us, it will be already Thursday morning. Then on Thursday, Mercury will square Ceres. And then Thursday night, Friday morning, again, depends where you are in the world, but I believe for most people, it will be Friday, if not for everyone. Sun will become the skip step and square the lunar nodes. This is something that's active during this lunation. Actually, the full moon in Sagittarius is squaring the nodes. Same thing as it's going to be with the Gemini full moon in December. This time, Sun is pointing to the North Node in Pisces as the resolution node. So we're going to look at, when we look at the charts, this is happening on 22 degrees, 39 minutes. And then on Saturday, the 14th, Moon will move into sign of Aquarius, where Moon will remain technically for the whole weekend. Vesta will station direct in Scorpio. And then on Sunday, we will experience Mars making a square to Uranus. This is a first quarter square since their conjunction, which took place last year in July, 15th of July 2024 in Taurus, 26 degrees 19 minutes. This square is happening on 28 degrees 55 minutes, which is interesting because it's double 10, 10, 10, again, next year. Crisis in action, what do we need to change? It's all about the authentic expression. Again, this is connected to this Venus square in Pluto at the beginning of the week, which is about the foundation has to change. It has to be created from inside out, which is from your place of self-worth. I deserve, and I deserve to live my life in accordance with who I am, the authentic expression. So Mars square in Uranus, first quarter square for Mars, which is in Leo. Mars is in Leo. This is all about taking an action with regards to not hiding anymore, being who you are. And yeah, also on Sunday the 15th, Jupiter will make a square to Saturn. Jupiter, obviously, in the sign of Cancer. This is 1 degrees 18 minutes, and their last conjunction took place on December 21st, 2020. We might remember the magical numbers, and it was on 0 degrees and 29 minutes of Aquarius, if I got it right, written down correctly, but it was in Aquarius one way or another. And then we're going to close the week with Moon in a sign of Aquarius. Moon will move into the sign of Pisces on Monday. And then eventually next week, we also have Jupiter making a square to Neptune. And that's evolving the cycle that began between the two of them, April 2022. But we'll talk about it the next time. So as we can see, there are tons of aspects happening, in connection with this full moon in Sagittarius. Some of them, as I just read for you, are happening prior to the lunations, some of them after the lunations, and some of them even after, in the following weeks. So with all of that verbiage, let's just share the charts now and see where we are at, so you can get some visual and see what actually is going on. So okay, so this is the chart of the full moon in Sagittarius, which I will be in the UK at the time. In the UK, it will be at 8:43 a.m. local time. So you just calculate whatever time it is for you. Yeah, this is the chart of the full moon, June 11th. The lunation is happening on 20 degrees. Here it's showing 38 minutes. So, it's a little bit tricky with the minutes because sometimes you find different information in different sources. And this is the full moon. It's an illumination of the seeding that became or happened on December 1st, 2024. So that's when we had the last new moon in Sagittarius, which was the first new moon with Pluto back in the sign of Aquarius. And we can see it here, 0 degrees, 13 minutes. What is 13? 13 is the death card in the tarot, which is all about metamorphosis, death, and rebirth. But we can see we have a lot of positive aspects going on there at the time of the seeding. Mars was supportive of this new moon. So it was, Mars at the time being in Leo. This was right before Mars is retrograde. And this was right before Venus had her second conjunction with Pluto, which was, in the following days. And yeah, Jupiter at the time retrograde, Uranus was still retrograde, Chiron was still retrograde until the end of the year. Also, Neptune was still retrograde. So we still had a lot of retrogrades. Actually, at the time, you can see Mercury himself was retrograde. That was the time of the mutual reception opposition we had between Mercury and Jupiter. So it was all about this, like, okay, what are the choices we have? Mercury was bringing up to the surface of our consciousness all of these old patterns. Obviously, Mercury here, we can see, was in a new phase conjunction to the new moon. New moon was on 9 degrees, which was preparing us for this year 9, which is all about culmination and ending. What are we ending? We are ending the old stories, the old story for humanity that was based on certain belief systems that many of them, some of them might serve, some of them don't. That's for everybody to decide, because Jupiter was on 17 degrees, which is actually a Leo degree, and Mars was on 5 degrees. 5 degrees is again the chaos agent. It is, the degree associated with the fifth house with Leo. But I mean, in a numerology, is the number that's associated with change, like Mercury, Uranus, I believe. So it's all about the change. The change is happening, so you can make a new choice. So we can see this here very clearly. With the opposition, new choice has to be made. And at the time we still had the lunar nodes, North Node in the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars in Leo, pre-retrograde. So Mars then gone through his whole shebang of retrograde, going backwards on Leo, back into the sign of Cancer, and we were reevaluating. Because the reality we are experiencing or were experiencing at the time was based on our old identity, on the old program, on the old belief system, and now we're breaking free from all of that. So we can see at the time there was an inconjunction between Lilith and Saturn. Saturn was still on the second decan of Pisces, which is the Cancer decan, right? 12 degrees, Pisces degrees. So we were dissolving the old sense of self. Why? Because most of that was a projection of the societal trauma, right? With the Lilith being a sign of Libra, that is just this constant projection, of the unhealed wound, of the shadow that individuals didn't heal, right? So it just got passed on to the next generation. But we can see even here, Uranus was trining Venus. Venus was in Capricorn, like I said, pre her second conjunction to Pluto, so closing phase. So this old structure, somebody else being in charge of our life and stuff that's ending. This is an Aquarian degree. Pluto was on 0 degrees. So so there were a lot of things. Saturn was actually squaring the moon. There was a T-square between Saturn, the moon, and Jupiter. So Saturn was creating a pressure. Now it's time for us to grow up, technically, right? So that was the seeding. Now this is the full moon. And the next reset will be December 20th. That's when we're going to have the next new moon in Sagittarius. We can see many more squares over here. We have many more squares over here, a lot of pressure. Neptune, Saturn already back in the sign of Pisces, post-retrogrades, because Neptune will be moving back into the sign of Aries in January, Saturn in February, the following year, 2026, and Uranus is back in the sign of Taurus, by that point. Still retrograde, we can see, still retrograde. So there are two in conjunction. There will be two in conjunction at the time. Actually, Jupiter, as the ruler, will be making an in conjunction to Venus, which is conjunct this moon. So, yes, there will be a lot of things going on for us that we cannot see, and we will have to learn to trust ourselves. But these squares are going to be challenging us, pushing us forwards. And especially with Jupiter being in a sign of Cancer, we will feel everything very strongly. And this is why Jupiter is already in a sign of Cancer now, 0 degrees, right? And then the next full moon in Sagittarius, we have everybody in a new signs. Uranus will be back in Gemini from April 26th. Obviously, Saturn, Neptune, post their conjunction, new phase conjunction in a sign of Aries, and Chiron will be getting ready for his move into the sign of Taurus. I believe that's following months in June. So and the nodes will be getting ready for moving into Leo and Aquarius, but this obviously it's then creating a whole new world, whole new reality we'll be experiencing by the end of May 2026. So let's just go back to the present moment, right here, right now, on June 11th, 2025, which is actually the date that adds up to number 8, which is all about strength. And I know from the readings that I've been doing for my clients recently, this is a card and the energy that's coming up a lot. It will take a lot of strength, a lot of courage to step into this unknown, to take responsibility and be disciplined, right? This is the Saturn in Aries. If you want to become your own leader, if you want to become your own emperor, you have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined and determined, even though Aries doesn't know anything about discipline, because Aries and Saturn, there is a square, right? Right, Saturn, Capricorn. So this is something that has to be initiated by you, with the Leo being a sign of Mars being a sign of Leo. By this point, obviously, Mars is on the final decan, which is the Aries decan. It has to come from you, it has to come because you desire it, because you desire this new direction, you desire to create your own reality. So it's actually something that's turned into fun, like, this is fun, this is something I want to do because this is how I want to create, right? So we can see, as I already mentioned, Jupiter already on 0 degrees because Jupiter is moving 2 days prior, 0 degrees of Cancer, and Sun and the moon are squaring the lunar nodes. ruled by Mercury. By this stage, also in the sign of Cancer, Mercury is moving first on Sunday, right after their conjunction. And I mentioned this in my last week's astrological forecast, that it's very interesting that last year Jupiter and Venus had their conjunction on 29 degrees of Taurus, after which, and Venus was the ruler. Venus was the ruler of Jupiter at the time, after which Venus moved into the sign of Gemini, and then a few days later Jupiter moved. Now it's the same happening. The ruler of Jupiter, Mercury, and Mercury and Jupiter are having conjunction on 29 degrees again, and then Mercury is moving, and then Jupiter is moving, right? This time Jupiter is moving right the following day. So this is a new phase conjunction between the two, which is all about feeling. So Jupiter, even though Sagittarius Full Moon is obviously fiery, we have the sun in the sign of Gemini, it's all about the air. By this point is an Aquarian decan, moon in the sign of Sagittarius, this is a Leo decan, so there is a lot of fire and a lot of air, but the rulers of sun and the moon are in Cancer. Right? Cancer. So this is all about, you have to feel it. You have to feel it first. You have to feel it before you could create it. You have to feel it, and then your mind will follow, So it's again about that, just like I was saying, Jupiter in Gemini was helping us to master our thought. Jupiter in Cancer is going to help us master our emotions. And then when you master these two things, that's it. You mastered your matrix. So with pointing to the nodes, let's look at the square to the lunar node. Sun being in the sign of Gemini in Aquarian decan, whilst Mercury is 4 degrees of Cancer. That's a Cancer degree. So this is about helping you to feel into, who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? So the sun is putting this pressure, sun ruled by Mercury, obviously, on the Aquarian decan, with this Pluto that is making an in conjunction, blind spot, in conjunction to Mercury on 3 degrees, which is the degree of expansion, is the degree associated with Jupiter, is the degree in astrology associated with Gemini, right? Third house, the choice, the Lover's card. So we have this Pluto retrograde making an in conjunction to Mercury, because there is a blind spot. We're not going to find a resolution asking our brain, because it's the archive of the past. You have to feel it. You have to feel it. You have to become it, and then your brain will follow. We have to train our mind. We have to train our mind that, no, I am deciding who I want to be based on how I want to feel. So I have to learn to excavate that feeling from whatever it is that I want to imagine, or whatever it is, it's about the feeling. It's not about the details. So, and then the brain will get adjusted to that. It's all about creating these new neurological pathways, right? So the sun square in the nodes pointing to the north node. As I mentioned, the exact square is happening 2 days later on the 13th, on Friday the 13th, actually. So sun is square in the nodes pointing to the north node, ruled by Neptune in Aries. Number 2, the choice. The choice. What are you choosing to do? It's up to you. The Saturn is on number 1, the magician. You can become the conscious creator of your reality, but you have to feel it, right? Because these two squares we go going on, the Saturn, Jupiter, the Neptune, Jupiter, the Saturn, Mercury, like these squares between these two planets conjunct and these two planets over here, these two are in a closing phase, these two are in a new phase. You have to feel it before you can see it manifest, before you can put it into form, right? Put it into form. This is just an inspiration. So this full moon is showing us, okay, this is where you are on your trajectory, because it's a Sagittarius. This is your journey. This is your trajectory, your hero's journey, your human's journey, your fool's journey, however you want to look at it. This is your journey. Do you want to keep continuing this path or not? It's your choice. With the Neptune, you are the source. You are the creator. You are the God. You are the universe. You are extension of the universe. So you can decide the 2 and the 1. You can decide what is your new beginning. So this is the square, the crisis in action. So the Jupiter is on 0 on number 19, which is the sun card, which is the card of associated with the sun, with the Leo, the creation. Mars is still in the sign of Leo on Aries decan. This is a Taurus degree, foundation. We're creating new foundations for the future. So these squares over here, they're asking, what do you want your next story to be? How do you want to feel? You first have to feel it. You have to feel it first, because Sun is on Aquarian decan, and Pluto here is in retrograde. It's saying it's an internal process. The Aquarian age is about the internal process. It has to come from your heart, right? It has to come from your heart. So the 0 degrees with the 19 over here, it's up to you. Again, you created, you create, you decide. There's this infinite potential of the universe available to you. So the square is just pressuring, is pushing. Like that, if you want this trajectory you on, the life you are experiencing, the storyline that you live in to change, you have to do something. You have to do something. And it's not about even doing in a sense of let's go out there and do something physically. It's about you need to change the way you feel. So you need to feel. It's Cancer, feeling, self-nurture, like I said, with this Venus making a sextile to Mercury. Venus making a sextile to Mercury, and this is for Mercury to Venus. This is a first sextile, which is again a foundation. Venus is teaching us about self-love. She's teaching you can do it, but you need to believe you deserve. You need to believe that you can receive what you want. So that's why this Uranus now on 28 degree, which is the 10, again, 10, we have a lot of 10s over here, 10 here, over here too. This is an 11. Or, if you go by the other thing, then it's 39, then it will be 12, which is again about the creation. Either way is good. Either way works. And the 41 degrees, this is the change, right? This is the change. A new foundation, number 1, new foundation, number 4. New foundation has to be created through change. You can see here, Saturn is saying the same thing. 1 and 5, same thing. You have to become the magician. How are we going to become it? By being uncomfortable. Number 5, there are things that are not comfortable. We're going through things that are uncomfortable, that we don't necessarily want to experience. We don't want to feel. We don't want to see these things. We don't want to deal with these things. Look at these beautiful lilies again, in opposition with Venus this time. She's bringing up to the surface of our consciousness, especially as we're spending the entire weekend with Moon in a sign of Scorpio. So Moon is conjuncting Lilith. Moon is now in a new phase with Lilith, the dark side of the Moon. This is the Moon. This is the nurturer. The Lilith, she's the Amazonian. She's like the Kali Ma, right? Like she's the thing we don't want to see. She's the thing that like we reject it because it's too wild. It is uncontrollable. We cannot control Lilith, so then it goes into hiding, our subconscious mind, like, because we cannot, isn't the correct word to use? Like you can, yeah, because the spirit is saying like the control is not the right word because it's not about control. You don't want to control your wild side, but you can work with it. You can like train it. You can make it disciplined. So the word discipline has been coming up so much on my radar in the past week. So anyway, so it is a position, Venus in Taurus being the ruler of Uranus on this 10 degree is saying, okay, there is a reset needed. Also Uranus, it is still trining the south node. It's no longer, it's 5 degrees. It's kind of a little bit wide sextile, to that north node. But I mean, Uranus and Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, they are kind of in a sextile. So bunch of these things over here are kind of in a sextile with Uranus over there, but Uranus is still trining the south node. So it's saying, let's learn from the past, let's learn from the ancestors. Your ancestors wouldn't want you to sacrifice. They wouldn't want you to go through the same heartache they had to go through. No, because then it was for naught. Then like what was the point for them to do all these sacrifices and to have a hard life so their children and their children and then eventually you can have a better life so you don't have to, right? So they don't want us to keep making the same mistakes if they don't necessarily, if we don't have to make them. So yeah, and then the moon. So yeah, so the sun is squaring the nodes pointing to the north node ruled by Neptune Saturn conjunction that is squaring this Jupiter Jupiter and Mercury, the rulers of the sun and the moon. And this is all about the releasing because the new path is there. It's available. It's that infinite potential of what it can be. It's up to you. You just need to feel into it, the quantum field. And then, the second square, so what do we have to release to make a space for this? And then the second square is pointing to the south node, because of the moon, the ancestors, the moon, the Cancer, the memories of the past. Moon, Cancer, they rule the memories, the old stories, the 2038. If you look at it as, it's like 2 and 2, 11, 11, the choices that were made past, the past choices. And now this moon is looking to this and again pointing to this Mercury that is there, that is ruled by moon at the moment. And Mercury, by this stage is no longer the ruler of Jupiter, but it was. They had their last conjunction 29 degrees on Sunday. And Jupiter is also ruled by the moon. So this will be a roller coaster for the next year because I mean, moon is shifting all the time. So we're gonna be feeling everything, and it's gonna be it's gonna be amplified to allow for this expansion to take place. So this moon pointing to the south node in the sign of Virgo, it's say, what did we learn? What can we adjust in our life based on what was being learned, right? So also this what else is going on here? Yeah, Pluto squared the Venus, we already talked about it when I mentioned the aspect. This is all about us having to have to start to love ourselves because that's the whole foundation of why this whole world is miserable and so easily controllable because most people don't. They don't know how because the people that raised them didn't know how. This is just something that's been part of our story as a humanity for a long time because it was also always about this externalization of power to someone out there that we put on a pedestal that we love more than we love ourselves. And then if the foundation, if the roots are not strong, then the tree cannot grow strong, then any other things that come, the wind, the this, we just bend in that direction. So if I put someone else about myself, whatever that someone else, then whoever that someone else is, then I'm just gonna be the dancing monkey, right? And then yeah, then you never feel in charge of your life. Eventually you lose yourself. That's why we had the South Node in Libra over here. We had the South Node in Libra. And the Venus was in the sign of Capricorn, close in face to Pluto. When this moon got seated, it said this has to end. It has to end because the south node was on 4 degrees. It said your past identity was created by what somebody else wanted you to be. Projection, right? The outer reality is just a reflection. It's not who you are. It's just a reflection, and you can either choose to adopt it or not. It's a choice. It's a 2 degrees. It's a choice. Jupiter and Neptune being the rulers of the North Node on 23 degrees, again, number 5, right? The number 5, 23 degrees. This is a Scorpio decan, Aquarian degree. Aquarian degree. So what are we breaking free from? This sense of self, this empowerment, right? Because this Lilith and Venus, they are in opposition. Lilith is in Scorpio. It is bringing all this shadow up. It got activated by the moon over the weekend, right on time in preparation for this full moon in Sagittarius for us to see what are these stories based on which our reality is created and built upon. What are these stories? What are these beliefs? What do I actually believe? And we know that Sagittarius is mutable. You can choose for yourself, with the moon, squaring the nose, pointing to the south node. Learn from the past. Observe the past. Discern, Virgo, discern. You will see the patterns, the patterns, the patterns. Aquarius, Gemini, and Aquarian decan, the patterns. You will see the patterns that every time we make the same choice, we create the same result. Observe the patterns. That's why the moon, which is the identity, the ancestor line, the memories, the history, the past, it's pointing to the south node. Observe the patterns. Feel into it. They made you who you are. We are creatures of habit, creatures of routine. But when the routine and the habits are detrimental, then our life reflects that. Because our life always is just a mirror, right? The external is the mirror, the Libra is the mirror. It doesn't have to be just people, it's everything outside of you. So that's why I'm saying, well, if you want that external environment to reflect this new story, this unlimited potential that's available for you to create, to tap into, then you need to observe and discern what are the patterns that are keeping me stuck in this identity, in this role. So this moon is very, very supportive. It's a very supportive moon. It's very supported moon. Also, this Lilith is trining this Jupiter Mercury, saying now the future direction is all about how you're gonna feel, how you want to feel. It's a choice. How do you want to feel? So this is something when I was looking at this in conjunction between Mercury and Pluto, the in conjunction, the blind spot, you can't see. You can't see. This is actually the Virgo, like the in conjunction between Pluto and Mercury. This is the Virgo in conjunction, which is again about the adjustments. It makes sense because of the South Node in Virgo. And yeah, this is about, well, you cannot really like see it necessarily, but you had to experience it. You had to experience, you had to go through the life to be able to understand, because if somebody just told you, then you'd be like, okay, well, whatever, like, so now now you feel it, you had the experience, so now what are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? What do you want to do? How do you want to feel? So that's yeah. So the thing that was coming to me with this in conjunction is that this future direction, the Aquarian age, it is not going to be making sense. It is not going to be making sense to anybody other than you because they are not you. Because they are not you, it's not supposed to make sense to other people necessarily. Some will resonate, some won't. So we cannot ask somebody else for advice, who am I here to become? Because they're not you and they're not walking your path. The Sagittarius, they didn't come here to necessarily explore the same horizons, to create the same story, to live the same story as you. Some people will choose something similar. Again, it's about the resonance, but the resonance is felt. I vibe with you, I feel you, like there's something I can't explain that makes me attracted to you or something. So yeah, so it's all about learning to trust yourself. The Venus sextile, to Jupiter and to this Mercury. So this will be the future way of being, the way that will allow you to start living your story, feel that you play a part in the story you created. You have to feel it. You have to feel it for yourself, because whatever that somebody else tells you, it doesn't matter. It might feel completely different in your life. It's a good information gathering, but that's it. That's it. You have to put it into practice. You have to feel it. You have to experience it. Until you've lived it, you don't know. It's all just a theory, right? So yeah, so what else we have here? Pluto trine to Uranus. Yeah, this is out of trine already, but we know Uranus is moving next month, just over a month from now. So yeah, this is gonna be then almost exact trine. Eventually, they are going to have an exact trine, and this is all about Uranus to Pluto. This is a first trine, so this is about, yeah, because they conjunct in 60s in Virgo, right? So that was the adjustments we've been making since 60s, and now Uranus is moving to Gemini. It's okay, now you have a choice. Now you can make a different choice because you learned, learned, since 60s you have, and it's 11:11. You have enough data, to discern, is this working for me or not? Look at the state of the world, how it's changed in the past 60 years, it's crazy, right? So this is the first trine, which is the Leo, which is what do you want to create now? What do you want to create? Leo, again, is still in the sign of Leo. It will be moving to the sign of Virgo the following week, but at the time of this lunation, Mars is still in the sign of Leo. On Taurus degree, foundational. This is foundational. All of this is foundational. Venus, Mercury, foundational. Venus to Jupiter, closing. We are releasing. What are we releasing? This old foundation, the old sense of self. Why? Because it was created by expectations and projections of the outer, because we thought that's all we were. But now you can choose different. Now you can choose yourself to become who you want to be, and not to be the dancing monkey for anything outside of you. The system, the program, the culture, the religion, whatever it is. No, you decide. You are a sovereign being. You have a free will choice. So don't give it away so easily. It's also about this, discipline and focus. We leak so much energy. We dilute our manifesting power by focusing on the things that we cannot control, that will be irrelevant, 1 year from now, maybe even 1 week from now, who knows? We waste so much of our manifesting power and our essence and our energy on the things that are not supportive to you and your path. So again, it's about the choice. What holds a meaning for you, and what new choices are you going to make that will support you in living the life that is in alignment with your higher self, the Pisces, right? So it's all about co-creation with the spirit. It's no longer about the separation. It's no longer about you being bound to everything outside of you and being what everybody else wants you to be and fulfill all these contracts. That's all ended. Well, it's ending because, Saturn is still going back to Pisces in September until February, Valentine's Day. So, we're still going to have a little bit of that old story going on. But that's it from next year. Saturn is not going to go back into Pisces until, what was it, 50s? Yeah. 2050s, and it's going to move conjunct Pluto in the sign of Pisces. I already talked about it. I believe it was 2053. I believe it was. So yeah, so we have the whole Pluto transit through the sign of Aquarius, and Saturn will be going through the whole zodiac. The whole zodiac, while Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius. So there is a complete reconstruction of our outer reality, inner and outer, because obviously Capricorn, Cancer come as a couple, they come as a pair. So yeah, Jupiter being on 0 degrees, this is huge. This is huge because it's the unlimited potential of what you can become. Jupiter says yes, right? But it says yes to everything. So it's up to you. You know, you have to discern what do you want Jupiter to say yes to because it says yes to everything. Jupiter just amplifies, it expands, you know? So what do you want to not use Jupiter, but what do you want Jupiter to help you to become? Because he will. He will. You know, we have a year until end of June 2026. You can become whoever you want, but it will take discipline and focus. Focus. You have to be focused on this path. You have to be focused on becoming a conscious creator of your reality. And this is for everyone. This is for me too. You know, we all in this boat together. Some people are better, no, better. They are farther along on that path, and some people are, you know, like not behind because nobody's behind. Everybody is exactly where they need to be. But you know, you cannot have everybody be primary teacher, you know, primary school teacher. You cannot be everybody just to be a college professor because that is not really great. You know, there are all these different kids of different ages that needs all of these teacher, and not one's role is more important than another because the college professor will be no good to a little 5-year-old, will it? So I mean, you know, it's not better or worse. It just is what is, and everything is needed. Everything holds a meaning. Everything holds a purpose, and everything is important. But the question is, what do you choose? You know, Neptune 2 degrees. What do you choose? What do you want? So yeah, with the Lilith, my eyes are going back to Lilith because she's ruled by Pluto and traditionally Mars. You know, Lilith square in Pluto still, or Pluto square in Lilith. You know, whichever way we want to look at it, close into Pluto. We have to liberate ourselves by integrating the shadow. You know, love yourself unconditionally. That's what Venus is initiating over here on that 5 degree. The chaos agent, the change. The 5, the Leo degree. What do you want to create based on the changes that are happening in the world around you and inside of you? Because this Uranus is almost done with Taurus. It will go back at the end of the year. As we already seen, by the time we have the full moon, Uranus is back. 10-10. 10-10. He's saying, okay, the cycle is resetting in 2026. We have 10 days left, 11. So yeah, so this is a very potent time for making very discerned choices. Discerned choices. But yeah, whatever you want to become, it will take responsibility, it will take focus, it will take discipline. But always look at the meaning. Why you're doing this? If you don't have any meaning, if nothing holds a purpose, then there is no point, is it? But it's up to you to ignite that fire, you know, by reconnecting with your inner child, if necessary, healing the inner child, you know, with the sun ruled by Mercury. Nurture yourself, give to yourself what you need. That's what Venus is doing as well. Be in your body, you know, your senses, connect with your senses, your sensuality, your humanness, because you came here to have a human experience. Yes, you know, we are divine being, and at the moment we are going through the transition when we want the higher self to be fully um, present, present in your everyday reality. We're going through that process, you know. The sun is challenging it. Okay, what do we need to release in order to make space for it? All this garbage, you know, all this old conditioning, all this stuff that's drugging us, you know. That's why Lilith is like, it's time. It's time to dig deep, to release yourself once and for all, because this Venus wants you to embody this beautiful experience of what it's like to be human. And you can choose whoever you want to become and be the conscious creator of reality and experience the world that you want to see manifest. It doesn't mean that the whole world will look that way because everybody wants something different. You know, for some people, their idea of perfect world is, I don't know, Disneyland. For some people, it's quiet nature. For everybody that means different thing, but it doesn't matter because you will find a bunch of people that are in resonance with exactly what you want. And it's not supposed to look the same because it's the diversity, the Sagittarius, the diversity, the different stories. If there was just one genre, one type of movie, that would be boring, wouldn't it? Like some people, I don't like horrors, but there are people who love horrors. So who am I to say they shouldn't make horror movies just because I don't like them? There are people who love them. So that's why, because you have all this diversity, all these different desires, people love different things, and it's all good as long as people don't push other people to be like them. So again, like whatever I'm saying, you just take what resonates, leave the rest behind, because this is just my perspective of reality. This is just how I see this process based on my own filter, based on what I'm going through in my life. So yeah, but Lilith is trying. It's trying. She's trying, She's like doing a good job over here with this Jupiter Mercury as the rule of the sun and the moon. So it's all good. So even these squares that we have to the nose, they just pressing, creating a pressure for the change to take place. And the most important is these squares. Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, Neptune, Jupiter, Mercury, and the closing phase between Saturn and Neptune, which is going to happen exact next February. Next February, they're going to have an exact conjunction. I don't remember exact, but I have a feeling it's 22nd. I didn't, I don't have the date written down, but it's next February. So yeah, and this is all in the new phase conjunction with this North Node because the desire of the source has changed. Your desire is changing. Most of us don't fit in on our old skin anymore. We don't fit in our old role, in our old story, because the contracts are dissolving to one another. So I don't want to play that role for you anymore. I don't want you to play that role for me anymore. It doesn't feel good. I want to be free to be me, and you can be free to be you, and we can all be free to live our life in alignment with who we came here to become. So, who do you want to become? What is the story that you want to experience? The next horizon you want to explore. So, the full moon is just illuminating multiple options to you because the sun is still in Gemini, which is all about multidimensionality. This is the next step on our fool's journey. We had the new moon in Gemini, seeding of the future timelines, and now we have a full moon in Sagittarius, which is saying, well, which way you want to go? What is the story? How do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? Yeah? Because the next moon after this will be the Cancer new moon after solstice. But that's something we're going to talk next time. So yeah, I think I'm quite happy with, the aspects I looked at. There are many, many more things you can look at. Obviously, you can see also Chiron is making a positive aspect to this moon. We have the grand fire trine, which is all about creation. The fire is being ignited, these new ideas because of the pressure of change. We want something to change. We need to do something, right? It's not going to change on its own, but don't take action unless, you're doing it from the place of inspiration, heart, and higher vibration. Don't do it from the place of fear, because again, the same pattern will be recreated. But yeah, this Chiron is supporting it. The Chiron, the key between Saturn and Uranus. Chiron on 26 degrees, the strength. 8 minutes, the strength. You need to be courageous to step into the unknown. It's not easy. This is Sagittarius Decan, Taurus degree, foundation. The foundation to the future that you want to create is hiding in your heart, it's hiding in your soul, but also it's you. The new phase conjunction with Venus, everything is connected. So yeah, so that's trine in the moon and trine in the Mars. Chiron is supporting this process. Use the wound as the opening, because like the Rumi thing says, the wound is where the light enters you. So that's what it's for. Your wound is your greatest gift. It helps you to go from what was, the stagnant, to the what you have the potential to become, the new foundation, not just for you, but for everyone and for those yet to come. The future generations. It's a co-creative process, free. We are co-creating always, consciously or unconsciously, but we're always creating. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna hop off and pull some cards. I am staying at my parents, so I don't have the same decks available. I left them in Bulgaria, so I'm just gonna use some different decks today. So if you would like to see what's gonna come through these cards, then tune into the next video, part 2. And with this, I wish you all a wonderful full moon in Sagittarius. I'll be in the UK for that one, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much everyone, and bye for now.